I'm at DoqaruCon today with Chris Paton, the MD of Quirck Solutions. Chris, a fascinating keynote speech from you today. Just talking a little bit about pre-planning and that sort of forethought of before you action plans. Tell us a little bit more about what it was that you were talking about today.
It's essentially, I think, that businesses and organisations often come up with solutions to what they're going to do. The first mistake that they make is to only come up with one solution. So I think it's always essential to try and create other ideas as to how it might go about, how you might actually create options and what you might do. But the second issue really is that people understand that plan is probably going to fail. They know that it's not going to survive contact with the actual reality of the environment. But they run it anyway, and they think that, well, we can just fix what comes up that's wrong. But that's lots of money, usually. It's often crisis management, it's often very expensive, and it could be actually quite critical. You've seen things around Northern Rail, we've seen things with TSB, where these are hugely damaging outcomes. So a real critical factor in any success for me is testing the initiative, testing the plan before you actually commit to action. So essentially, before you step out of the door, working out where it's going to go wrong, and by bringing in a whole bunch of people to do that and try and create that diversity of views against it.
And why do you think people are so resistant to doing that? It seems like a logical thing to do, but it doesn't seem to be happening. Why do you think that is?
Time. Most people feel they're incredibly time poor, and therefore they just don't have the ability to sit back and try and do this. But usually the time spent in running some sort of test costs a lot less than the implications of a potentially damaging mistake. So actually it is time well spent. It's just that people struggle to understand that and to see that.
Sorry, you spoke about more diverse thinking earlier. You were talking a lot about that diversity of thought. Do you think that diversity of thought leads to better planning, or does that spontaneity of ideas and the energy that it develops allow things to run away a little bit more and lose control?
You definitely need. The more complex the environment you're operating in, the more difficult the potential area that you're trying to work around, then the more that you need diversity of thought. You need people with lots of different frames of reference looking at the problem to try and come up with solutions. If you always have the same group of senior leaders who all think in a similar way because they've all been recruited in the same way, they've all come through the company in the same way, they're all the same type of person thinking the same way, you might have gender diversity, for example, but it's not diversity of thought because they're all thinking in much the same way. So you definitely need that diversity coming through. But the issue then, you're quite right, is if you're not careful, things could fly off all over the place. So you need to put some sort of boundaries around it as to what you're going to allow people to consider. It's often called freedom in a framework, where you, as senior leaders, senior management, wanting to create the solutions, you don't come up with the solutions yourself. You want the team to come up with the solutions. So you set the what by the boundaries that you're looking to set. Those could be budget, they could be geography, they could be demographic, they could be types of products, they could be types of clients. You set some sort of boundaries, and then you say to the team, as long as you are going to achieve the strategic objectives inside that framework, how you do it is entirely up to you. So that then is a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation brought in, but you also control how far they might be going, and you control the risk of something going wrong to that extent.
Sounds like a minefield, but I can see the opportunities and benefits that it presents. How do you think the industry will adapt to that? Because as you said, particularly oil and gas is a very rigid kind of structure. It's been long established. It's hard for them to undergo any level of cultural change. How easy to embrace is that methodology for them?
Yeah, different sectors find it easier than others. Engineering-heavy sectors. Now, I am an engineer. I will say that I'm therefore critiquing myself here, but lots of engineering-heavy sectors are very logic-driven. I know what I'm doing. I've always done it this way. This is how it always delivers the results. And if A goes to B goes to C, then that's what's going to happen because I have thought this through. So it isn't always straightforward introducing it to other organisations like that. The best way to try and do it is to do it without it being too confrontational. If you try to introduce a change of thinking and a change of way of going about something on a live project, the potential ramifications of it going wrong are too big and people don't like it. So the best way to do it is to take a historical case study from within the business, perhaps something that went well or didn't go well, and say, so if we were to look at this again, how might we do it? How might we do it differently? And then try and use those in a non-threatening way to start to learn the techniques.
That's really interesting. I like that as an approach. I think there's a lot the industry could learn from you. I very much enjoyed your speech today. I look forward to hearing more from you, and I would encourage others to look at your website and learn a bit more about the methodologies that you spoke about, because I think they're fascinating. And I look forward to speaking to you again. While you're still here, what is it you're hoping to get from DoqaruCon today? Why did you choose to come along?
Because it's not necessarily just about oil and gas. This is about a much broader set of topics, from strategy to sales to marketing, and those are lots of issues that I actually don't know that much about. You know, I feel I'm pretty good at helping people achieve their strategic goals. I feel that my organisation as Quirck Solutions is pretty good at training other companies in how to perform better. Mm-hmm. But do I understand much about sales or much about marketing? No. So why not come and get that up front and develop myself personally?
Sounds like as good a reason as any. Thank you so much for your time today, Chris. I wish you all the best for the rest of the day.
Thank you. You're very welcome.